I'm Mackenzie Collier, founder of Mackenzie Collier Interiors. We are a full service interior design firm here in Phoenix. We work out of the McKinley Club in downtown Phoenix. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with that space. We designed it and we also work out of it. We've been there since 2015. So like I said, we specialize in both residential and commercial interior design. Our slogan is "We're not your mother-in-law's interior designer," and we're really proud of that. And currently we're a team of 8 and we are actually hiring a few designers this month. So growing a little bit. And I'm so happy most of my team is in the front row here. So thanks for coming, guys. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go through and do my little talk. And at the end, there'll be time for questions and comments. And I love to, have a conversation about things. So if you're thinking of things as you go, remember them and then we'll talk about them at the end. So here we go. Okay, so when I was asked to speak on the topic of sanctuary, I had just returned home from visiting my hometown in northern Michigan, which is on Lake Michigan. It's gorgeous. So I'd done a week-long camping trip with my wife. So we were watching the sunset over the crystal clear lake. And then, the day I got back, they're like, "Hey, would you like to talk about sanctuary?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely. I'm an expert on the topic. I know this." So, yeah, I was like, perfect. This will be great. So our business systems are smooth. Our office is beautiful. My team and I have a really good work-life balance. And overall, we're all really happy, right? So I'm super proud of the little oasis that we've built within, the monstrosity that is capitalism, for our company. So I'm like, yes, this is a great topic. And this is kind of where Morgan Freeman comes in. He's like, she was not, in fact, an expert, as she would soon find out. So then literally the next day, my wife and I became foster parents to 2 toddlers. So we had about 5 hours between getting the phone call to going and meeting these kids for the first time and bringing them home to our house. So at that point, our whole lives turned upside down. And suddenly we were parenting a 1- and 3-year-old who both came home with RSV. So no one was sleeping. RSV quickly moved into COVID, which there was also this disease called hand, foot, and mouth. If you don't have kids, I didn't know that was a thing. But in 3 months, I've learned about all of it. So anyways, over the next few months, Kylie, who's here in the front row, my PR coordinator, she would, as I started to prepare this, well, I'll go back a little bit. As I started to prepare this presentation for today, I wondered how I could possibly speak to you all about sanctuary when my own home was in such chaos. So, when I hadn't slept in days and I was struggling to even get like a few hours of work in each week. Nothing humbles a CEO faster than not being able to negotiate with a 3-year-old to get them to put their shoes on. You feel like you've got it all together, you're really powerful, and then a 3-year-old will put you in your place so fast. So anyways, trying to put this presentation together gave me such a huge case of imposter syndrome. And there was a deadline for like when I should have the presentation ready, and a week passed past that, and then 2 weeks passed past that. And I'm like, I'm just really having trouble getting this together because, for me, the idea of like being a new parent and then like speaking professionally on the topic of like sanctuary, I was like, who am I? So anyways, that's where this presentation is coming from today. So this was, I already messed up and I didn't switch both screens. Just give me like okay. So this is the picture that was supposed to be up while I was discussing becoming a parent. So yeah, the truth about people who have it together is that no one has it together all the time, right? So this was us like 2 weeks into parenting. That's my beautiful wife. So she doesn't know I put that picture up here. Jason, don't tell her, okay? But yeah, so as my PR coordinator, Kylie, would reach out each week asking me, what's the progress on this presentation? I started to notice that even with my attention elsewhere on parenting, my business remained mostly unaffected. The sanctuary that I had set out to build for myself when I got into design school had finally come to fruition. So I'd set out to build a business that would allow me to focus on friends and family when I needed to. And that's what I was actually able to do 15 years later. At the beginning of my career, the reason that I was focused on that was because I took care of both my mom and my grandpa when they had cancer at the same time. So knowing that my mom could relapse at any time, I charged forward building a team and making sure that I had trainings and systems and processes in place so that my business could run without me if it ever needed to. So that's kind of where it started for me, knowing that like at any point I might have to step out and take care of somebody. So that's my business was built on that. But I created a space in the world where I feel safe and supported, financially, emotionally, creatively. And what I'm most proud of is creating this space for my employees as well. So we've created this culture of balance and support, and that culture will by far be the crowning achievement of my career, for sure. It's the thing I'm most proud of. And I'm changing both screens. Okay, so I had painstakingly built this sanctuary over 2 decades, block by block. This sanctuary was the sole reason I was able to prioritize sudden motherhood over my work. And the coolest thing was that when push came to shove, my business carried on. The systems that I designed over the last decade actually worked, when it came down to it. I'm gonna grab my coffee off the floor here. But the respect and trust that I had built with my team members and my community allowed me to focus on my personal life without stressing about whether the lights would stay on at MCI. So my business coach, my coaching students, my employees, the people who run our co-working space, all, stepped up by dropping off baby supplies and meals and checking in on me. And, they pulled things off my task list and said, I got this. And I believe that they did. So, and they had it. So all this to say that creating sanctuary for yourself doesn't mean that everything is peaceful and calm and quiet and perfect. It means that you create a space where you're safe, where your needs can be met, and where you can provide respite for others as well. So it's creating that space that can help you weather any storm. And I talk really fast too. I usually say that at the beginning of when I talk. So I apologize. I can't control it. I wish I could. But if you need me to roll back on anything, just let me know. So I think like twice as fast as I talk. So I feel like I'm talking slow, but anyways. Okay, so yeah, famous designers have a certain look, right? So how did I accomplish this this sanctuary? So I'd like to kind of go back and discuss how I built the sanctuary within my interior design business. So being a single queer woman, there really wasn't much representation for me in the design community when I first started out. Everyone's familiar with the typical mold of an interior designer, right? She's rich, she's gorgeous, she's married, she's usually white. She has a big house and a quirky husband and beautiful children, right? Like that is like carbon copy every, this is them. Whether it's Instagram, whether it's HGTV, whether it's, even like the high-end design magazines, like it's always the same carbon copy thing, right? And that is not me. I do not fit into that. There's also a typical mold for an interior design client, which is exactly the same, right? So it's a very exclusive industry, typically reserved for the financially elite. You probably recognize a few of these faces from Target or HGTV, but it's really difficult to know what your path forward looks like when there's not representation of people like you who have made it. So it was even difficult to find another interior designer locally who were running a profitable business. Like that was something that they didn't discuss in design school. And I don't know who's, gone to art school here, or, if we're all creatives. There's this idea that like, you're going to graduate, you pay all this money for your degree, and then you're going to make it, right? And like, not always is that the case. Like so many creatives are not paying the bills with what they do. But anyways, like I said, so many of the designers that I tried to network with or seek mentorship from early on in my career were projecting this image of like, I have a successful interior design business, but when I would ask them how they're doing it, the answer was kind of always the same, that someone else was bankrolling it. So that they could pursue their hobby. And design wasn't actually paying the bills. So that was terrifying for me about a year out of school, realizing like, oh my God, I got a $70,000 degree in a hobby. Like I'm gonna die. So I was panicking, right? But I didn't have the option of not being profitable. No one was coming to save me. No one was gonna pay my bills. So I had to figure out how to build a business from scratch that would actually support me and pay my giant design school tuition loans. And it didn't take me long to realize that it was nearly impossible to profit consistently without delegating and scaling. So I started to grow my team slowly and steadily over the years. And we went from a one-woman show to 8. And I think we've had as many as 12 at one point. But yeah, so I also just didn't vibe with the existing design business model when I first started out. The industry model involves making most of your money on like sneaky markups and vendor kickbacks, and it lacks transparency. So the honesty and transparency really, or the lack of honesty and transparency really conflicted with my most important value, which is integrity. So we flip the business model on its side and we offer our clients complete transparency. So we make our money charging for our design services, and not acting as like a sleazy salesman to try to get them to purchase products that we'll make money off of. So we also worked really hard to make sure that our services were affordable to everyone. So not just the super wealthy. So we streamlined our design process to make it efficient enough that we could afford to offer a high caliber design service to working people. So we can work with, working families, single people, small businesses, like that's where we want to be. So yeah. I wanted to create a space, a sanctuary in the industry for people who don't fit that typical mold, clients and designers alike. I swore if I ever had any success, I would spend all of my energy, holding the door open for the people that come after me who also don't fit the mold. So I believe everyone deserves access to great interior design because it improves your quality of life. And I believe that the industry can only get better with a more diverse set of voices contributing to it. So I got to work starting to build this business that was centered on my core values of integrity, ingenuity, and balance. And I made sure that my business was centered around people. So thank you. Good. Oh, wait, here we go. I did miss another one. So sorry, I'll get this together. I will. I'm gonna turn it around. Here we go. So that's just me. So often my team comes up with solutions that never in my wildest dreams could I have thought of, right? So our culture of diversity and collaboration has led to more amazing design solutions and business growth than I could have ever, done on my own. So the same is true for our clients. Luxury interior design clients tend to be beige on beige on beige, and I want nothing to do with it. So in building a design service that's attainable for working people, we were able to collaborate with an incredibly diverse set of clients who inspire each space, which is really cool. We always say that you should be able to go into a space and tell who lives there without them being there. So each space should reflect their life's journey and their passions and their individuality. So, and when your space functionally supports your daily routine, your quality of life improves. So everyone deserves that, right? Look at me, two at the same time. Okay. So any questions so far? Anybody have anything on your minds of anything I've talked about so far? No? Okay, cool. Keep going. I've had a lot of coffee this morning and no sleep because of those kids. Businesses are machines that do something, right? So they do something within a community. Whether you are, an independent creative, whether you're a small business or you employ 5,000 people, you will have an impact on your community. So your business can do something positive or something negative, and that is completely up to you. It was important to me to build a business that puts good out into the community. I see my business as an incubator for young professionals to launch their careers. My hope is that whether they stay at my company for 6 months or 6 years, that they will have learned to lead with integrity and confidently take risk and always stand up for what they believe. We try to give back to our community in as many ways as we can. We believe that you should work to live, not live to work, and we set really clear boundaries around that. I've never had any ambitions of running a huge business with hundreds of employees, and I never wanted to compromise with investors, so I've always been cash-based. I actually just took my first line of credit last year, 12 years into running my business. And I just wanted a team big enough that we could have the skills and the capacity to take on the caliber of design work that I wanted to do and the capacity to do the community work that I have always dreamt of doing. So that's kind of where my goal is. And I think it's really important for everyone to kind of define what that success looks like for them, because I think when you start a business or when you go into a creative field, like the idea is like, I'm going to make it, I'm going to make money. And it's not always about that. In fact, most of the time, if it is about that, you're going to fail. So yeah, so this was my list that here, check this out. Okay. This was my list that I made in 2010. So I just graduated from design school, but it hasn't changed much over the years. So I wanted to share it with you. I kept it vague enough that it really kind of stood the test of time. And I'd encourage each of you to make your own list about what actually matters to me. And I know it's a little small, so I'll go ahead and read it. But first thing is make space for more diverse perspectives in the design industry, break the mold and push the industry forward, which I already kind of talked about. But I often tell my designers that if it doesn't scare them a little bit to present their design solutions, then they probably haven't taken big enough risks. So if you are presenting one of your creative ideas and it doesn't make you want to throw up a little bit, like you probably haven't taken a big enough risk. So go ahead and push it a little farther. And the results are always really rewarding. So second thing, it was really important to me that no one can count my vacation days. So life is way too short to limit yourself to 2 weeks of PTO per year. Like how can you cram all of your living into that, right? You can't, which is probably why a lot of you are in the room, because as creatives, we were all like, absolutely not. So, so I don't know if it's because, excuse me one sec. I don't know if it's because I moved around a lot growing up, but I can't stay in one place for too long. So I need to wander. I love road trips and adventure and international travel. I like to plan my trips around a meteor shower or the moon or something else ridiculous that, a corporate employer would not probably take into account. And quite frankly, that was the entire reason I went into business for myself, was because I need to do that. So, and that's a huge part of the foundation of my business. And I want that for all of my employees as well. So, the third thing, I wanted to be available for my friends and family whenever they need me. So whether it's my time, my money, my help, whatever it is, I wanted to be able to show up. And this became really important to me. Sorry, I'm also getting over the thing that the kids had. So I'll get there. But when I was in design school in Chicago, my brother and his girlfriend, who I'm very close with, were in a terrible car accident. So they were in South Dakota road tripping. At the time I was working full-time as a live-in nanny. And I also had a job at Pottery Barn on the weekends. So when the accident happened, all I wanted to do was rent a car and get to them, right? Like I just wanted to be with them. But both of my bosses said I couldn't take time off. So I stayed and I worked. My brother needed me and I wasn't there. They both survived, though she's still in a wheelchair from a traumatic brain injury. It's been 17 years, I think. And, you know, not going there is still one of my biggest life's regrets. And I swore from that moment forward, I was never going to have to ask permission to do the right thing ever again. I wanted to have control of my life so that I could do the right thing in that moment. So, because Pottery Barn doesn't care about me, and that nanny family I have not talked to in 15 years. So, you know, I should have just gone. So to me, that control of being able to do the right thing for my friends and family is really, really important to me. It's a driving factor in my business. So I also wanted to create work that I can be proud of. I don't want to follow trends, and I want to express mine and my client's vision. So I personally avoid looking at what other interior designers are doing. I don't care about trends because trends come and go, right? So I don't care what, you know, people are like, oh, did you see this trend? Like, what do you think of this? My team just this week, we were doing interviews, and what was the name of the style? Avant Basic. I became aware of that. So there's a new style. It's called Avant Basic. My interpretation of it as an elder millennial is like, it's like Saved by the Bell 2.0. But anyways, like I said, I don't give sorry about my language book about the trends. I like to design spaces that exist for the people who live there, right? And they reflect those people. I like to travel, nature, and music for inspiration. I try to understand what emotion my client wants to feel in the space, and then use the language of design to create that emotion. So if they want to feel energized when they wake up in the morning in their bedroom, or they want to come home from work and just, you know, feel that complete zen and let it all go, I like to use design to create that emotion in the space. So I also don't try to sell clients on my style. That's a huge thing in the interior design industry, especially, you know, with the birth of Instagram and social media and all of this. Like, it's this, like, you're supposed to come up with this aesthetic that is yours and sell that to the world. You know, and that is how you get, you know, your candles into Target. But I personally am not interested in that. So it's really important to me to let my clients discover their own style and to help them with that process. And it's so rewarding to me when a client who comes to us at the beginning is like eclectic, which means like, I don't know, you know, so they like a little bit of everything, and they're showing us these Pinterest boards. I love kind of being like, okay, put all of these spaces aside and talk to me about, like, what is your song that you put on in the morning when you get in the car to get pumped up? Like, talk to me about like your favorite travel memory that you have, that like every time you think of it, it just like, you know, makes your heart sing. Or there a color in your closet that you always gravitate to. Like for me, it's army green. Like my whole closet is just army green all the way across. You know, and so that's a color that, like, while I don't necessarily recommend, I won't get too far into interior design, but I don't recommend people, you know, invest too much in a trendy color. I always say, let's keep most things neutral. And then, you know, we pull in accents of color that we can change out through, you know, through the trending seasons. But if there's that color that's been your signature color your entire adult life and you've always loved it, like, we're going to go for it, and we're going to paint every wall on the ceiling and whatever. So, that was, sorry, I guess that I'm pretty passionate about number 4. 5. So work with people I actually like. So that is huge. When I worked retail, I was always amazed by how having like one, you know, questionable employee on the shift could just ruin the day, right? So if you happened to get on a shift that had people who were positive and supportive and knew how to do their jobs well, like, you could have a great day. But then there was always, no matter where I worked, there's always that one employee that you're like, oh no, I'm going to be on with them again. Great. And you know, it makes the shift feel like a death sentence. So I hated not having control over my own environment. So this was another huge motivator for me to start my own business. I get to interview people and get to know them really well, and then hire really cool people who are really fun to be around. So thanks, guys. You guys are all really cool. So yeah, so that is what actually matters to me. It's what mattered to me in 2010. It's what matters to me in 2023. It has not changed. So I definitely recommend making a list like that of just a few kind of like non-negotiables for yourself. Okay, so your mission statement. I'm not going to read this, but your mission statement actually has to come to life. And whether you own a business or whether you are an independent creative or whether you work for a business, writing down the mission statement for what you're doing in the world is only half the battle. So the other half is actually looking for opportunities to live out your mission through the policies, processes, and services that run your business. And that's the tricky part, right? So in addition to your mission statement, I recommend having a defining sentence or two, bless you, that clearly informs any decision that you might have to make as an entrepreneur, as a creative. So for me, my sentence is, if everyone made this choice, would the world be a better place? So I use the example of, are there any hikers here? I know there's one. Okay, so I'm a hiker. I love hiking. If everyone took a rock from the trail, would the world be a better place, or would the trail be better or worse? It would be worse, right? So if everyone went to Sedona and picked up a rock, and the 25 million people that passed through that trail all took a rock, the trail would not be as beautiful, right? So you have to think about things like, yeah, you picking up that one rock might not be a big deal, but if everybody, if everybody did it, would it be a problem? And so where that comes into business, I've recently kind of learned about short-term disability leave and, offering maternity leave to employees. And turns out like the best case scenario that you can get as a small business owner is insurance will cover 60% of an employee's salary for, well, last year it was 5 weeks. This year it'll be 13 weeks. So that's like what they cover for us. So then anything beyond that is a business owner having to offer it just straight out of pocket. So for me, I was thinking like, would the world be a better place if everybody cut women's pay while they were on maternity leave? No, that's terrible, right? Like we can't do that. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cover that because that's the right thing to do. So, yeah. Okay. So I personally have the best luck planning for my business and problem solving when I'm not at my desk. Anyone else feel the same way? Yeah. Okay. So you can sit at your desk all day and stare at a problem and not be able to fix it. Am I okay in time? I'm good. Okay. Though all of my best at business ideas and solutions come to me when I'm on a hiking trail. This picture is from when I took my team into Havasupai a few years ago, pre-COVID. And so, doing things like that with my team has always really brought the creativity and the bonding and that, just again, it's the people I like to work with, like are people who love to do adventurous things and not just kind of punch in and punch out. So the idea of like building a machine that does something good, which is what I said earlier, it's an admirable idea, right? But how do you actually do that? I wanted to cover some like concrete steps that you can take to put this into practice. So, and you can enjoy this while I talk, I guess. You want to first get a clear sense of what actually matters to you. And I have you in all caps. As creatives and entrepreneurs, we inherit this massive list of accolades and accomplishments that we're supposed to strive after. So whether it's your first $1 million revenue year as a business owner, or whether it's your first 100,000 followers on Instagram, it's like there's these, societal milestones you're supposed to hit or strive for. I give you all permission to release all of that and build a business that reflects the life that you want to build. Forget society's expectations, build something different, something just for you. And when you do that, you'll attract clients and colleagues that resonate with your mindset and support your mission naturally. So imagine your personal sanctuary. What does it look like? Meditate about it, obsess over it, get a crystal clear vision of what you're building towards. There's some really cool visualization exercises that I like to walk my coaching clients through. Do you guys want to try one? Like we have time, I think. What time is it? Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, so are you sure you want to do it? Okay, it's kind of weird. I get a little woo-woo on these things, but I think it's really important as creatives to kind of take that time and make space for yourself to exist, right? Within all the chaos of everything that's happening in the world. Okay, so if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. If not, that's totally fine. Just start with a couple deep breaths and try to just get relaxed. Okay, so picture yourself sitting at a cafe or a brewery or wherever you like to sit, kind of get away and think. Notice all of your senses. And then slowly start to float up above yourself. So you're no longer sitting in your body, you're up above your body, looking down on the area. And you keep kind of floating up until you can see the whole building, the city, the whole region. And then you're kind of floating out into the atmosphere, being sucked out towards space, and everything, you know, the earth finally comes into view and you can see it. You're experiencing the extreme quiet that is out there. And notice your senses as you experience that. Then you're going to start floating back down toward earth slowly, gently, and you're going to see the most beautiful landscape that you've ever seen. Maybe it's someplace you've already been, maybe it's someplace you dream of going. And you're floating back down toward earth, and you finally land and you see the most beautiful home you've ever seen. What does it look like? You walk up to the house, you knock on the door, and a person who answers is you, but it's you in the future, and it's the best possible version of you. Notice them. What do you look like? Who's there with you, if anyone? So future you invites you in. What do they offer you? Where do they ask you to sit? Notice what the space feels like. How does future you spend their days? What does their typical day look like? What's different about you in the future? Okay, then we'll end with a few more deep breaths. Just kind of soak it all in, and then when you're ready, open your eyes. I always like to ask, did anybody have anything like surprising? Did you, or was it predictable? No surprises in this whole group? Okay. Yeah. What was yours? Just, if you don't mind sharing.
Life was like more.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Love that. Yeah. When I did this exercise for the first time, like I had always been kind of like driving myself toward this, like I lived in Chicago. I went to design school in Chicago. I love urban environments. And I always thought I was going to have that like modern space with my design studio on the bottom floor. I was going to, you know, live upstairs, and I was going to walk out my door to a city. Right. And then when I did this exercise, I was in the middle of nowhere in like an old, like cottage, and like, you know, creaky wood floors. And I was like, how about that? Okay. And like, you know, and it really did kind of shape, like, that's, I think, what my soul is actually craving, which is much different than my ambition and, you know, where I've been driven in life. So I always think it's just really important to notice, you know, if there's anything that like, maybe you need to take a little bit of a right or a little bit of left right now, to get to where you are the best version of yourself. So thanks for indulging me with that. I always think it's really fun. But once you have a clear picture of what it looks like to you, like what that sanctuary looks like and feels like, set 5 to 10 specific goals that you want to accomplish, say in the next 10 years, to get you there. A lot of people think that, you know, okay, I'm going to set 10 end goals. Like, this is where I want to be. I'm just going to set these end goals that in 10 years, I'm going to be there. But I think it's really important to maybe set 2 end goals and then have 8 goals that get you there. Right. So think of it as kind of like a bus stop. So the destination might be these 2 goals over here, but then there's 8 stops to get there. So where do you have to stop in order to get there? And I think that's what a lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs, creatives kind of miss that. We get excited about the end result and just kind of try to get there. But I find if you just slowly, are climbing year after year, growing a little bit every year, improving a little bit every year, you're more likely to get there. And when you get there, you're more likely to be satisfied with it. So yeah. Last thing on this slide, pay attention to where you feel most energized and where you feel the most drained in life, in work, in everything that you do. Make space in your life for things that energize you and set boundaries to free yourself from the things that drain you. If you're not sure, pay really close attention to how your body feels when you think about whether it's a person or a task or like a whole department of what you have to do. For me, I always share this. For me, when I first started my business, when the phone would ring, I would want to throw it across the room, which is like really bad for a small business owner. So like you're supposed to answer it and want to talk to these people. But my reaction still today when my phone rings is to throw it across the room. I don't like talking on the phone. I'm very socially anxious. Small talk kills me. But so when I first started to hire, that was the first person that I hired was a person that could make a friend in an empty room. And sometimes I would, leave the office and come back and I'd be like, wow, she's been on that personal call for like 15 minutes. That's so unprofessional. Then she'd hang up and be like, oh, I booked them for Tuesday, but they were talking about where the kids play soccer and where they're vacationing this summer. And like, she just had that ability to do what I can't. And so if I do that, it drains me, right? But when she did it, it energized her. So I think it's really important to make sure that your role, what you're doing every day is full of tasks that energize you and any of those things that drain you. So for me, it's the talking on the phone. It's like anything that arrives in the mail that is like a form. And I'm sure creatives, maybe you relate to me, like when like a tax form comes, like, again, I just want to throw it. I'm like, it didn't come. It's just in the garbage over here. They won't miss it. But so hiring people that can, that enjoy that. So now I have a person that works for me who she loves that. Like when I scan things and send it to her, she's like, oh, this is so exciting. I have to call the Department of Revenue today, wait on hold. So she loves it. Not my thing. So yeah, pay attention to how your body feels when you're doing things. And I find it's really helpful to keep a list. So keep a list of tasks that it takes to actually run your business or your creative endeavor. And notice, like, these are the ones I want to keep, like that I want to do for the rest of my life. And these are the ones that like, I could, hopefully soon delegate. And then look for opportunities because you're going to meet somebody at a networking event or, somebody who has that complementary skill to you and you want to be able to act on the opportunity when it arises. Okay. So I wanted to share a tool that is really great for gaining clarity on what you want out of your business or everything that I talk about is business related just because I'm a business owner and that's the frame that I think through. But I think it works for artists, for any creative, really, even if you are working for other people or maybe it's just like your career path. So I suggest you can scan it if you want. Yeah, you can get your phones out and scan it. I can pull it up at the end too if you want. But so this is the casual 3-year business plan. So I suggest that you put on a record, make yourself a drink, and plan to take about 2 hours to do this exercise. This is the first exercise I have all of my coaching clients do because it really helps them gain clarity on where they're going. Yeah, and make sure you just have quiet time away from distractions to be able to really dive into it. It's not really something that you can kind of start and then pick up over and over again. You should really kind of like get in that headspace and go for it. So yeah, go ahead and get it. And this is our office at the McKinley Club. So if anyone's ever downtown, stop by. It's on Polk Street and 7th Avenue. We love it there. It's a co-working space that's really cool. Okay, cool. Okay, so dreaming can only get you so far. The next step is to figure out how to get there. So with my coaching clients, I have them actually price out their dream life. So figure out exactly what you'd need, how much money and what resources you need to get there. So that place that you just were a few minutes ago, like price that out, shop it, figure out what does that house cost? Where is that house? Think about that dream business that you have, whether it's, 5 employees or 500, or maybe it's just you. What resources do you need? What does it cost? Like that ideal thing. So yeah, you want to work through the budget of your dream life and business, and then work backwards to set goals that will gradually stair step you up to that in a given time frame. So like I said, we price out every single detail and all the resources so that you can plan for it, right? Because you can't, again, I'll go back to hiking. Sure, you can go for a hike and not know where you're going or not have a trail, but like your chance of success is going to dramatically increase if you've got, whether it's all trails or you've checked the map in advance or you have a physical map, maybe you're old school. Just like knowing where you're going to have the best experience because you're not going to miss the view. Not to say you can't go off route and enjoy that as well, but like you have the best chance of success of coming out safe, of enjoying your hike. If you do a little bit of prep work ahead of time to know where you're going, know what the temperature is going to be, know how much water you need, how many miles you're doing, what's the elevation. You have to kind of research that stuff ahead of time to make sure that you have success. And once we map out what you want versus what you have, almost all my coaching clients come to the same realization that their prices need to go up, that they need to set clear boundaries and figure out how to delegate the tasks that drain them. That's almost always the realization that they get to. Oftentimes as creatives, society wants us to give away our craft, for your portfolio. So we get that a lot. We're like, oh, our project would look great in your portfolio. Don't buy into that. You have value. What you're putting out into the world has value. Charge for it. One of my only regrets professionally is how long it took me to actually charge what we're worth. If I had started doing that 2 or 3 years earlier, I would have been so much better off financially. And it's not that I was providing a different service, in that time frame. It was just my confidence, my ability to ask for what I needed. So, and that part took time. But if I could go back, I would have done it year 1, started charging what I charge today. So, I'm doing it now. Okay, so your nope list. So knowing who you're not is just as important as knowing who you are. You want to define your non-negotiables. So it helps me to keep a running list of what I call nopes up where I can see them. So if you're struggling with a decision, this list will make your decision really clear. I encourage you to make your own list of nopes, like your non-negotiables. So for me, I won't read, the whole detail of this, but I will not sell out to, appeal to other entrepreneurs' idea of luxury or luxury clients. Status symbols don't matter to me. If a client's right for me, they're going to like my grit. I will not take advantage of my team or my clients. Sure, my business could be more profitable, but I value people over profits. And this is a big one that kind of comes up probably every year for me. Someone will come in, whether it's a business coach or a colleague, and they will see this like opportunity. Like, sure, I could take advantage of my team and put them all on salary and make them work 50 hours a week, or take away PTO or what. There's always ways to make more money. But it's just a matter of like having the integrity to know that that's not what it's about for me. It's about the people. So I will not sacrifice my mental or physical health to run this business. When there's a conflict between the two, I choose to rest so that I can come back swinging later. So often when things go sideways, the issue traces back to me not enforcing my boundaries or not speaking up, right? So in that sense, it's really important for your mental health to do that and always kind of like stay on top of that. Fourth, I will not rise by pushing others down. A rising tide lifts all boats. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we had expanded to Portland in 2019. So we had an office there. We had already gone virtual. So we were on Zoom. We were doing team meetings on Zoom. We were pretty much like perfectly equipped to go into a global pandemic. And so when that hit, other designers were calling me and reaching out, and they were like, oh my God, I've lost 4 clients this week. I'm going to go out of business. I have to let my assistant go. They were in panic mode. And I realized after like the 4th or 5th call, I was like, oh my gosh, like they don't have the systems that I have that protect me and protect my business and protect my team. And so at that point, it became really important to me to start teaching. And so that's why I started working with interior designers and coaching interior designers and coaching small businesses in general. Because yes, it took me 12 years of trial and error and making every mistake known to man to get to where I am, but that's not something that I'm going to gatekeep. So I'm going to share that with everybody. So yeah, that idea of community over competition is really important to me. And last, I will not operate in fear. This is a huge one for creatives. Logic never produced magic, so you have to go for it. And that's one of my favorite quotes is logic never produced magic, because so often in my creative brain or my like leader brain, I've got this idea and it makes no sense. Like I know it makes no sense when I explain it out loud. I can hear that it doesn't make sense, but I just want to do it. And so sometimes I just do it. And it always, the parachute always opens and it always works out. So it's that skill of listening to your gut. And even if it doesn't look like it makes sense, like eventually it will, if you really believe in it. So go for it. Okay. So, in any creative endeavor or small business, you're going to struggle. I think the difference between those who give up and those who stick around for decades is that the second group just learns to relax into the discomfort. Does anybody do yoga here? Yoga? Okay, cool. So if you do yoga, you might be familiar with the idea that you have to relax your muscles in order to deepen your stretch, right? And the same is true for business or, working in a creative atmosphere. If you lose your mind every time your bank account gets low or a client gets upset, you're going to waste years of your life pumping stress into your body, which is a total waste. And it's not worth it. So I tell my coaching clients that I've made every mistake so that they don't have to. And I used to get super worked up and beat myself up over every failure. But eventually I realized that my failures force me to grow. And when I grow, I get better. And the sooner you learn to laugh at yourself and give yourself grace when you fail, the more successful you'll be. There are so many scientific studies that point to resilience as like the key indicator for both success and happiness. So if you want to be successful and happy, you have to learn to be resilient. And that is just believing that you're going to bounce back. Like it might seem awful. It might be like the most embarrassingly awful failure mistake that you've ever made. It might be in front of a ton of people. Whatever it is, like you can laugh at it because it's eventually going to be funny. All of my failures are now really funny stories that I can tell around the campfire. You'll find the most success if you just learn to channel all of those challenging emotions that you feel when you fail into creativity and into solutions to those problems. Rest when you need it and come back swinging. And if you don't know what else to do, just take a walk. Like that's my, like, so often I'm completely stumped. It seems like there's these two conflicting things and it's just not going to work out. Take an hour walk and you'll come back and you'll have the solution 100% of the time. Okay, last slide. My best advice for building a sanctuary for yourself is to not look around at what everyone else is doing. What may work for them might not be best for you. So just because there's already an established norm or a path that people follow, that does not mean that you have to follow it. If your gut tells you to go one direction, go. Don't be afraid to carve your own path. You'll learn lessons as you go, but if you lead with your values and your integrity, you won't go wrong. So yeah, if you find yourself in need of interior design services or business coaching, I love connecting with other people. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We're always looking for artists too. So if there's any artists in the space, we always are looking to collaborate on our projects with that as well. So please reach out.